Yumemaru? Yumemaru, where are you?
Allow me to introduce y'all to the Kaede Hour. Or the next Kaede 30 minutes, I don't know, depending on how long the segment actually takes, I guess. So the Kaede segments play quite a bit differently from Samanosuke, obviously, and that's not always a good thing, but for now it's, I don't know, it's a different little change up to the typical formula we've been dealing with for about an hour now.
Are you alright? What happened?
Monsters. From West Prison.
Having multiple playable characters in a game's campaign is one of my favorite little gaming cliches throughout, I don't know, just video games, period. Now, when you really think about it, they can serve a ton of purposes, including but not limited to giving that character their own characterization, acting as a nice distraction to make sure the main gameplay loop doesn't get too stale, and highlighting their different characteristics and proficiencies that you wouldn't normally see in a game that doesn't have multiple playable characters. Kaede acts as a pretty big departure because she's kind of like a glass cannon, kinda? Not really? I don't know, I guess it's more fair to say that she's a glass paper crane. There's a lot working against her, and her segments are some of the hardest parts of the game in terms of just how combat goes, and a lot of that has to do with her just not having any progression to speak of. Barring one very specific exception, and we're quickly approaching that, so I need to wrap this up as fast as I can. The only two weapons she can access are these little kunai daggers and obviously her main melee knife. She can't absorb demon souls whatsoever, so it's actually in your best interest to just run past all of the enemies. Her melee attacks boast some of the lowest damage in the game across any other weapon that you can think of, and her knife does about maybe half or a quarter of the damage that the bow does. She also doesn't get any health upgrades, so if you end up taking some dumb damage, you might be kinda screwing yourself a little bit whenever you get back to Samanosuke, because their healing pools are shared. You need to learn very quickly that what you're doing as Kaede is running and being a ninja. Getting into fights is only really a last resort, and if you're forced to fight anything, then it better be forced. Taking any glancing blows from enemies here means that you take a ton of damage per hit. She doesn't get armor upgrades like Samanosuke, so yeah, getting hit is pretty punishing. And I know the intention of these segments is to reinsert some survival horror into this Capcom survival horror game. Barring maybe your first playthrough or the very beginning of a repeat playthrough, it's more or less a samurai power trip the whole way through. And if you're playing this game for the first time, these Kaede segments really aren't that offensive, but they're not really any fun if you go back and play the game in a weird twist of fate. And that again just boils down to the fact that she has no progression. Mostly. Again, we'll get to it. Couple other things to note here. If you come across any demon seals, even if they're already open, they'll re-seal themselves because, well, Kaede doesn't have an Oni gauntlet. This seems like a bad thing, but really the game is just using these as an opportunity to point you in the right direction. Instead, whenever you come across a locked gate, Kaede can use her shinobi kit to lockpick the gate open. She's a ninja after all, so she can get into places where she's not supposed to. Any door that requires the shinobi kit, though, will be broken after you swap off of Kaede and go back to Samanosuke. Sometimes this will lock off whole areas, and sometimes it'll just lock off certain pathways. So if you're trying to collect fluoride or just, don't want to miss anything else, then be vigilant is all I'm saying. Because if you miss these unlocks, then you will miss them, and there's no way to go back to them unless you have a previous save point. And that's not any fun if you're trying to go for 100%, obviously. Couple pro tips before we wrap up here. If you truly need to fight anything, use as many kunai as you can. For some reason, all of the ranged weaponry in Onimusha Warlords is stupid strong, and that even goes for these stupid little daggers. Even if their stopping power is the lowest in the game for a ranged weapon, it's still a ranged weapon in Onimusha, and that should speak for itself. Even if it doesn't end up killing any demons, it'll stun lock them, so it'll kill them eventually. Another thing to add, if you do the stab attack right in an enemy's face, Kaede will jump behind the enemy, and if you press the attack button while you're behind them, you'll do an assassination move. This will one-shot most enemies in the game, and it even works on the big armored demon guys as well. It's a little risky to pull off, and it's not super consistent, but if you pull it off, it does feel pretty good. And then the last tip I'll give, which is actually something that works across the entire game regardless of who you're playing as, kick enemies. Kick them a lot. If you're fighting single targets, what you can end up doing is kicking them into a wall or just onto the ground, and this will leave them open for an execution regardless of the character you're playing as. It's the quickest way to dispatch them, and even if you kick them without finishing them off, they'll be out of the fight for a little while. If you don't feel like finishing off enemies as Kaede, then kick them and run, because again, you're supposed to be running as a ninja. But even still, widely speaking, if you're playing this game, anytime an enemy is on the ground, whether or not it be through kicking, you can finish them off and do a bunch of damage. Typically it'll result in one-shotting the enemy, but for the bigger guys, you might need to do it a couple times. Either way, it's a big chunk of damage and it helps. Whew, okay, I think that's everything that Kaede has to offer. Could I have paced that better throughout the video? Yeah, probably, but I didn't want to. These segments act as a pretty big paradigm shift for the game proper, and as a result, you're probably going to die during these Kaede segments at least once. As in once per time that they happen. That includes the puzzle segment that happened, I don't know, 20 minutes earlier, depending on how you're watching this. And from somebody who's played this game a lot, I don't know, it's kind of a mixed bag in my opinion. I appreciate the change-up, but I don't look forward to these segments. They're probably about the worst thing that this game has to offer, but it's not, like, offensively bad or anything. Just kinda meh, whatever. Ow. The perspective of this hanging chain thing always confused me. I always thought it was in the middle of this room, and I always remember it being in the middle, but no, it's in the upper right corner. It looks a lot closer, though. Maybe we can blame that on new age televisions messing with the perspective or something. Yay, fixed camera angle issues. Wow, okay, rude.
You cannot burn me, I'm already on fire!
Okay, first things first, head to this back room. There's a trick treasure box up here, unlock it, you'll get the sacred knife. This is the one other thing regarding progression with Kaede that I was talking about, and yeah, it's a slight melee damage upgrade, but mostly you need it as a sort of key to cut past these tentacles. You can't do it with the regular knife because I assume demon magic or whatever. Also, yes, in case you were wondering, the fire does hurt, not only you, but enemies too.
You. Wait a moment. I will help you out.
You are Kaede? Sanosuke once wrote to me that he journeys with a female ninja, Kaede.
So, you are...
If only I could leave the castle and see the world with Samanosuke.
Princess Yuki.
I envy you.
You can go.
Dog, what? Okay, no, so I've been racking my brain about this, like, ever since this most recent playthrough. Is this a historical, like, anti-lockpick trap? I've never seen this before.
Forget about me. Escape from this castle with Samanosuke.
Do not give up, Your Highness. I will save you.
No, you won't.
What?
You can die here alone.
Princess Yuki! Princess Yuki!
I'm gonna try my best to pronounce this guy's name. Volchaman? Don't really get any fanfare or anything because they're not supposed to be a boss. It's just that we're playing as Kaede and she struggles with fights. Which, yes, also means we're going to see them as Samanosuke and they're way less of a threat. You know, when you're actually playing as him. That being said, they're probably the most mechanically advanced out of any enemy that we'll ever see out of Onimusha. On the one hand, they can go invisible, obviously. They like to do this every time you finish a combo string, or sometimes just randomly in order to get the jump on you. Doing any form of a knockaway attack like a stab or a kick or something will cause them to also go invisible immediately. They will also do this if you throw a ranged weapon at them. They have a deceptively high health bar, and not only is their sword also a whip, it can also be bent around in a circle like a chakram. I don't know if there's any real consistent way to do it or anything, but they also like to burrow into the ground whenever they turn invisible. In theory, you could use this as an opportunity to do a finisher attack on them. But the hitbox is really small because they have a tiny head. I only pull it off like once in a blue moon, practically, and I don't really know, again, if there's a consistent way to do it. These guys sound like they would be super annoying, but really they're not all that bad. They're certainly a lot more handleable if you're playing as Samanosuke, but instead, we're playing as Kaede, and therefore this is now a boss. Just fully fledged, this is her boss fight here.
Have to tell him.
Thank you for not using a demon seal, by the way. That would have really sucked for Kaede. I know we just had an enemy explanation a second ago, so I'm just gonna keep this one short. Our doppelganger here is named Stylado. At least I think I'm pronouncing that right. Once again, Japanese names. I don't really know how to transition into this, so instead here's the goofy image that they used for the fandom wiki. He has all the same basic attacks that you have, plus this weird purple projectile move that he likes to use and spam sometimes. Successfully blocking the projectile will end up giving you a magic orb. Sometimes it's pretty big magic orbs, so I guess that means, you know, hey, spam magic during this fight. He also really likes to block, which is super annoying, but find an opening, find a gap in his defenses, and just attack him thereafter. The reason I want to be quick about this is because I want to talk about some more cool developmental stuff. For the handful of you that ended up watching the God of War video, do you remember back in the very beginning where I told you that God of War 1 was inspired by Onimusha in some ways? Yeah, well, it's time to talk about that now. In an article by Eurogamer, detailing an interview with David Jaffe, the guy who made the original God of War, one of the direct quotes he said, which was, whose original concept was God of War? David Jaffe replied with, it was mine. Actually, it's Capcom's because I played Onimusha, and said, let's do that but with Greek mythology. This is kind of giant news to me because, as I'm sure plenty of you know already, the character action genre is my favorite genre of all time. Which would technically mean Onimusha is the proto-character action, and even if you don't subscribe to that idea, well, its DNA played a part in the character action genre. Given how this game was developed by Capcom, who also made the DMC series, I don't know, I don't think it's a huge stretch of logic to just say that, everything kinda started here. At least, more or less, anyway. And this all ends up being a weird event horizon for me because Devil May Cry and Onimusha released just months apart from each other. They both released in 2001. I don't really know how to end this segment after, just coming off of the excitement of figuring all this information out. But I will say, because, these videos aren't super popular anyway, if you want to know what a future video looks like, might be talking about the entire history of character actions in their entirety. I think that would be a worthwhile thing to talk about, and hey, now you know what the beginning of that video is going to look like. Just keep that between you and me, Also, the Eurogamer article will be linked in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Oh, and speaking of callbacks, do you remember that quote-unquote barrel I was talking about at the beginning part of this video? Yeah, that was the power jewel, the one we picked up at the bottom of the well. This is where you get it if you accidentally cut the rope, so here you go, I guess. Also, yeah, I guess we have the ability to commune with the freshly deceased now. The point at which we unlock this isn't super clear, but if you want to know what specifically triggers this, it's the rosary we picked up in the basement. No, don't worry, none of this is required, just gives you more flavor text. It's an alternate way to do like the files and stuff that we have been picking up, just more supernaturally coded, basically. Which, funnily enough, actually makes this one of the only 2 items that are completely optional in Onimusha Warlords. I don't know, just vaguely interesting, I guess? We don't really have any clear directions to go, so let's just go ahead and head down that same back alley that Kaede went through. Our only real lead is unlocking those demon seals that, Kaede couldn't unlock, obviously, so why don't we try that? Oh, right, yeah, no, this is a super minor thing that I completely forgot about. The Oni Gauntlet actually upgrades itself whenever you get so many souls. If you want specific numbers, then 25,000 for the first level, and then it upgrades again to be a gold gauntlet at 50,000. What does upgrading do? Well, it just sucks up souls faster. That's pretty much it. But if you wanted hard numbers, there's your hard numbers, I guess. At least it looks cool. Can't knock that, that's pretty neat. I don't know why, I just love that interaction every time it happens. Although, yeah, it makes me wish it happened more often, just, manually setting some traps to hurt enemies. I don't know, this is kinda cool. I'm not entirely sure why we needed the cutscene to show off the big axe guys again. I mean, I know there's a bigger axe guy, but, I don't know, what do you want me to tell you? Just spam magic. There was a magic refill station 2 screens ago. Like, just use magic.
I need more bullets!
And on this week's episode of Needless Attention to Detail, hitting the sconces causes sparks to fly out. Why do they do this? Couldn't tell ya. It's kinda cool though. Oh right, so the vision staff is kind of interesting actually. It gives you the ability to physically see fluorite on the ground now. This is supposed to be your cue to find them by going back to all the previous areas, which can be kind of resource sink because there's new enemies in those areas now and, you know, blah 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 whatever. But it's just completion incentive, basically. Also, because I didn't check it in the menu until now, let me use it though! We also got the matchlock now, and we don't have the ability to talk about it quite yet, but don't worry, it'll have its day. No, don't you worry.
Oh, please, do not be afraid. Stay and talk with me for a while. Have you heard of the Dark Realm? It is a kind of paradise. It is a place that contains wondrous treasures. Are you interested? Just remember, if you die, do not come back to haunt me. Are you absolutely sure?
Alrighty, so, welcome to hell, again, for the third time now. Why does this keep happening to me? Yeah, it's still technically the wrong game, I know, whatever. The Dark Realm is an enemy gauntlet that consists of 20 floors. You have to beat all the enemies in order to advance to the next floor, and after you beat all the enemies you can instead decide to go back up, which will take you back to the normal world. When going through the Dark Realm, things like item management are obviously super important. Sometimes you get rewarded whenever you complete any number of floors, but what items you get are completely randomized. There's at least 3 fluorite in the Dark Realm, so it is required if you're going for 100%, and there's something really special waiting for you on the 20th floor. But we'll obviously cross that bridge when we get there. In all honesty, this is the hardest challenge that Onimusha Warlords has to offer. The enemies that appear here aren't any different from enemies you find in the normal world, but the combination of enemies is where things get really, really brutal. If you're wondering what happens whenever you talk to the gatekeeper inside of the castle instead of inside of the well, well, it leads to the same place, at least in this version. More on that in a longer while. If there was anything in this game that was going to challenge your combat capabilities, it would be this area right here. No bosses appear or anything, but like this is just a war of attrition, an endurance battle all the way throughout. It's in your best interest to enter the Dark Realm whenever you're fully maxed out already, or whenever you're just confident enough that you can get it done, as entering multiple times will take more of your finite healing resources away and there's no ways to get those back. You can't grind for healing items in this game, so what you have is what you get. And you can't rely on health souls either, because the one change they made to the enemies is that they don't drop them in here. Even if you don't make it all the way to the bottom of the Dark Realm, it's still really good for orb grinding. Going through the Dark Realm even a little bit is likely to upgrade your weapons all the way your first time through. Although yeah, given the finite item thing I just talked about, it's in your best interest to complete the Dark Realm either your first or second time. If you decide to pull out on your second time through, don't go in a third time. It's not worth the item sink this far in already. But this is the earliest to unlock it, so why don't we give it a shot?
Get him! Yaran.
Okay, by now, I've completely lost track of where I am in the Dark Realm, but I can't do this, not this early on. I think I have to go back. This isn't over though, we'll be back later, I promise.
So you have made it this far.
Beyond this gate lies the demon world. It's over. We will never be able to save you, Mamoru.
Samanosuke, what is this? Ha! We have to destroy that stone. Let's separate and find a way.
Well, that's our lot, I guess. With that, let's figure out where to go. Now, if I was a magical demon seal busting key, where would I be? Special thank you, as always, goes to Stefan over on patreon.com. If you would like to join the list of people who get their names read out loud at the end of these videos, get early access to these videos before they pop up on YouTube, or just get sneak peeks to these videos, then memberships start at $1 a month. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I hope to see you again for the final chapter in Onimusha Warlords. Have a good day, everybody.